Good afternoon. We are so excited that you could join us for this lunch and learn style conversation for our first in the Aware Beta mini series. So you are joining us for part one to begin the conversation of what is available in Aware Beta and what might this look like over time. So we're super excited to have you here joining us, and we look forward to having you in future sessions as well. My name is Tara Whedon, and I am the Curriculum and Learning Design Manager here at Eduphoria. I'll help moderate the conversation this afternoon through use of the Q&A. And our host this afternoon is Jeremy Wagner. He is one of our product managers and will be guiding our conversation on Aware Beta this afternoon. Some housekeeping reminders as we get started. We are recording this conversation and you will receive that about 24 hours after the recording via email. So that email you use to register for the event will be the same email where you will receive the recording of this conversation. So we're excited for you to see that and continue to review or share with other colleagues that could not attend today. We also have a Q&A window. So if you have questions today that you would like Jeremy to answer or things that maybe we can share some online help with you, please drop those in the Q&A window. We will have time at the end of the topic to share some of those questions that you might have with the full audience and have Jeremy speak to those directly. We do have a chat, and while there are no pre-planted conversations for you in the chat today, feel free to share your celebrations or engage with other participants through the chat. Again, the Q&A is going to be for questions that you have for our host, Jeremy, that we can answer live for you this afternoon. Without further ado, I'll go ahead and turn things over to Jeremy.
Good afternoon. Yeah, it's officially afternoon by about 2 minutes. So good afternoon, everyone. Really glad that y'all were able to join us for this quick lunch and learn mini webinar. The purpose of today is to really just kind of go over what's going on with Aware Beta. So we're going to review the release timeline so you can get an idea of when is beta going to be kind of my only option and how is that going to work? And when will beta stop being beta and just be aware? We're going to get familiar with some of the current functionality and how we've hooked things up so far. So if you've never clicked try beta yet, this will be a good chance for you to see how things are currently working and give you an idea of, okay, when should I maybe go try to work in beta to get more familiar with it? Where am I going to get the best bang for my buck in doing that? And then we're going to just kind of talk about, as we look at that functionality, what kind of quality of life improvements have we implemented with beta and kind of what was our mission and how we were accomplishing that. And so I guess to kind of get us going with a general message, because we are at the midst of Halloween, we have to have the scary laugh. Aware Classic is going away. And so keep that in mind as we're going through some of this. And this preview will be something that you can use to get yourself just ready for that transition. So here's our objectives and timeline, and I'm going to be speaking for approximately 10 to 15 minutes, and then I'll open it up to general Q&A for anyone in the crowd. But feel free to populate that Q&A as we go. Our guiding principles when we were creating Aware and starting the transition from Classic into Beta was that we wanted to create a new user experience that simplified the way that our users accessed most of their recently used functions. So the idea was, how can we take things like our drop-down trees and minimize the number of clicks that you have to use? One of those was one of our guiding principles. We also, in making this, we're having two versions kind of live simultaneously because we wanted to do no harm as we created it. So as of such, all functions, as we migrate them into Aware Beta, every single thing that exists in Classic will exist in Beta. So you're not going to lose anything. And as a kind of safety net, Classic will remain available until we actually switch Classic off. And so if you get into beta and you can't figure out how to do what you need to do, or maybe the connection hasn't been made to do what you need to do, Classic is still there kind of as a default if you still need it. For our timeline, we're in the process of actually going through ongoing updates now. So as this school year unfolds, we're going to be making new connections throughout the entire year. So you may have noticed if you've gone into beta, not everything is there yet. As this year unfolds, all of those connections will be made. So right now, Classic is the default until we hit somewhere around March. We're going to turn beta the default when spring break starts to approach. So somewhere around spring break, we're going to make beta the default, but Classic will still be accessible. And then finally, partway through the summer, likely around the halfway part through the summer, give or take a little bit, we're going to make the full transition, and beta will become official Aware, and Aware Classic will close. So that's the basic timeline of what you could potentially expect. In future webinars, and I'll highlight this towards the end, in future webinars of this mini series, we'll actually highlight maybe some tips and tricks on to help you and your staff make that transition as that gets a little closer. All right, so let's get into actual some of the demonstration. What is beta like? What's it capable of doing? And where am I getting bang for my buck? When you log in and you actually access Aware Beta, you'll notice the left navigation looks completely different. We've got a preview of that on this slide. And part of what we were trying to do to enhance the user experience was to streamline and simplify how you access things like data views, assessments, forms, and the student profiles. Like I mentioned a minute ago, we'll have continuous development throughout the school year, and we'll have those connections complete by summer of 23. The first place you'll land when you access beta, when you click the little try me button towards the top, or try beta towards the top right of Aware, you'll land on the overview. Now, the overview has some really interesting power because this is where you could potentially get the most like click saving, so to speak. You can quickly pick up right where you left off with these two cards. You have an analysis card and assessment card that populate the 5 most recent tests that have been completed under analysis and the 5 most recent assessments that you have accessed as a test author. And so if you just need to quickly access something that just got finished, one click. If I need to quickly access a test that I'm not done with, but I accessed it recently, one click and you're there. So let me demonstrate that for us. Here's an example of the overview in one of our demo sites. I've got the analysis card, I've got the assessment card. Now, the analysis card, like I said, has all of these very recently completed assessments. If I go to Classic, to get to, say, this STA Science demo, I'd have to go to Analyze, Quick Views, there's 1 click, then District Assessments, 2 clicks, Year, 3 clicks, 8th grade, 4 clicks, Science, 5 clicks, STA Demo, 6 clicks, just to get to the data that I want. Whereas if I'm in beta, it's right there. It's just recently finished. I click it, boom. Exact same data view. It's just loading in the new user interface. So time saver right there. Similarly, if I'm looking at the assessment card, if I want to access this STA 8th grade math tests example, I've been working on this assessment and I need to go back and make some edits. In Classic, I have to click Assessments, 1, District, 2, DBA 3, Active 4, the grade level 5, 6, finally 7, and I get to the test authoring. Whereas in beta, I've recently opened it, boom, here it is, click it, get right to it. Time saver, quality of life improvements. So that was the ultimate goal with the overview. Moving on, let's talk about data views. Data views has easy to use filters that have replaced the multi-step drop downs. So even if you're looking at a data view for something that was not recent, like the demo I just showed, you can still find any of the data you're looking for on the fly pretty easily. Let me expand the nav, click data views. And all of those drop downs that were there have been replaced by these filters that are very easy to navigate and use. And so if I want to limit it to just this year and let's say science, boom, right there, a couple of clicks, I see a short list of assessments and then I can access the one that I'm looking for. As always, you can reset the filters and just search for name. If I look for just STA, there's STA Science Demo, load it, done deal. You can also do this by test types and notice that some of these filters, there's a way to search. And so if I'm really just wanting to focus on benchmarks, I can type that in the search, click benchmarks, apply, and it will filter just the benchmarks. And there's none populated at the moment. So bad example, but you get the idea. Now let's continue on. How about authoring assessments? You'll notice there's a single test right here. I'm not going to highlight single test analysis. It's a new feature that was released for Aware Premium. If you have questions, reach out to support and we can help you get hooked up with someone that can tell you about it. But let's talk about author for now. When I go to author, same kind of filter behavior. I can filter by year, grade, subject, test type, whether it's a district or campus assessment, and then the status. I want to hit the status for just a second here. Status, you default by loading pending and active, but notice archived, there's a little icon here. We don't load archived assessments right off the bat. So if you, and the reason why, you'll notice towards the bottom right, there's 179 tests loading. If I click archive, hit apply, it takes a second to load, and there's over 1,000 tests. And this is just on our demo site here. Your district, depending how large you are, how long you've been using Eduphoria, you may have quite a few more than just 1,000. And so to get into archived, that functionality is right there. So just point that out. Similarly, if you're looking for a particular test, you can type in keywords, get to that test, use the filters, and we have built-in functionality with the rubric tab. We'll have one more tab coming soon as this year unfolds for student inventory. So be on the lookout for that. That will be housed right here as well. Now, if I want to make an assessment from scratch, I have the button right here to create a new assessment. And I've got the same options I've had before, where I can pick, choose a standard assessment, and go straight into authoring. I'm going to cancel that. Next on the list, student forms. Student forms is really dependent if you have the right to actually access student forms. Otherwise, you'd access a student form through a student profile. And I'll highlight the student profiles here in just a minute. But if I have the ability to get into student forms, the functionality is very similar, where I can choose either a district or school form. If I choose, I have either a form category or a campus filter, depending on the type, and I can filter using those, or I can just search keywords and notice that the subforms are branched out underneath within the same row. So any subform associated with the main form still works within the search functionality. When I click on a particular form, it loads the typical form user interface. Now, one of the key things I forgot to highlight thus far, and it's worth pointing out now, notice at the top there are breadcrumbs. I can use these breadcrumbs to get back to where I was and pick up right where I left off. Same thing within data views. As I filter by a particular type of assessment, if I access one, I can also, I forgot to highlight this, I apologize. Before, you could load a quick view template. Now you do it as you load it, and you still get the chance to edit the template if you want. But then the data views breadcrumb also takes you right back to the table and lets you pick up right where you left off. So there's forms in a nutshell. Now let's talk about student profiles. You'll notice live student profiles still says coming soon. I'm going to show you this because it is not actually released yet, but it should be released very soon. So keep your eyes on it. So this is just a demo. Student profiles under another demo site where it is active. You click student profiles and it populates a list of your students. Whether you're a teacher, it populates your rostered students. If you're a district admin or district admin, it populates students for you. And you have numerous searching capability and filters that did not exist prior. Within the student profiles, you can now filter and sort students by monitor groups, monitor lists, and forms that are attached to those students, as well as the previous where you could search by race or ethnicity, enrollment, courses, teachers, etc. Within the table itself, you may have many columns. So we've got this scrolling left to right, but a locked student column so that that stays there the entire time. And if I hover over, say, the teacher list, I can see at a glance who the teachers are for that student. I can see at a glance which courses the student is enrolled in with the hover over. And the ultimate purpose of this, other than finding the student, is to click on the student and load the student profile as before, where I can access all of the details, see forms, see portfolios, etc. Go back. I want to show you some of how the filters work. So like within courses, if I want to filter by accounting, I click that and the list is changed. And this is every student that I have access to that has the accounting class. So this is a great way to just ask yourself, how many kids do I have in pre-AP math? Go to the filter, click it, boom, it'll show you right away. As I work through this filter and change the table, I can then export this table into a CSV where I can manipulate it if I need to, or load it into a report or something of that nature. Added functionality, which is really awesome as well. If I am interested in less information, I can use this advanced feature here to eliminate columns I don't need. So if I don't want to see school, teachers, and courses, all of those columns are now gone, and the export will honor your selections and filters. So as I do those things, I can export exactly what I see right here. And at any time, if you want to start over, just hit reset and everything goes back to the way that it was. Now, just as a point of note, once this does release, if you're a district level administrator and you're in a district with, say, more than 20,000 students, Be careful with how you search. You may run into searching through 20,000 kids, each with 8 or 10 courses, each with 8 or 10 teachers. That's a lot of data to process. So be patient with some of the searching as you go through some of that. But that really only applies if you're in the situation where you actually have access to 20,000 or more students. If you're a teacher or a campus principal, that won't be an issue. And as always, the search, you can search by student name, student ID, and as you type, the table is live and adapts to whatever it is that you've typed in as you go. So that's coming soon. You won't see that connection immediately, but you will see it very soon. All right, we're almost to the Q&A part. Those are most of the connections we've made so far. There's one thing I do want to talk about that I didn't hit in the slideshow, and that's the ability to proctor. When you go to Proctor, I'm in as an admin. I can filter by campus and then by teacher. And then once I've accessed it, then I get the test table, just like you would see if you went to test available in Classic. And so this is just a quick click, and then you can get straight into proctoring your assessments to choose a test or to go to online proctoring, et cetera. And so Proctor works just like it does in Classic. It's just housed right above author now, rather than being a pop-up that says, hey, test is available. As mentioned, this is one piece of a mini series. And so as we get into the remainder of this school year, we'll end up having future webinar opportunities. And so I want to highlight some of those things that are coming. So like in the nav, you noticed that the item bank things are coming soon, resources coming soon. We have plans to get those hooked up. As things are connected, and especially with settings, some of the settings to like configure items, to configure assessments and assessment types, those kinds of settings are not hooked up in many cases yet, but they will be as the year progresses. So future webinars will highlight the newest connections first, and then we'll review things that I've already covered, so that if you choose to come to future webinars, you can get the newness right at the very beginning, and then you can drop off as soon as you start seeing things you're familiar with, so that in the coming weeks and months, you can see what's coming up. And I highly encourage you, please encourage your fellow Eduphorians to come and attend future sessions, whether they're the Eduphoria point person for a district that you're friendly with, or if they're an administrator in your district you'd like them to attend. Let them know about future webinars. Keep an eye on the newsletters as they come out, and keep an eye on the pop-ups that come up when you log into Eduphoria. We'll continue to communicate upcoming webinars in those areas as well. So keep an eye on that so you can see things coming up. That being said, I want to go ahead and open the door to any questions. Tara, what do we got so far?
Yes, so far we have one question submitted in the Q&A. So if things are on your mind, go ahead and get those submitted to us. This comes from a district level user related to the analysis card on the overview page. They are frequently in and out of data views. However, their analysis card is always blank from the overview screen. Any context here, or is this a follow-up opportunity?
It might be a good follow-up opportunity where emailing support and reporting this as a potential glitch might be beneficial. I do want to ask Valerie as a follow-up, if you have the chance to type it into the chat. Are you getting the loading in that card, or is it just blank white and it won't ever get past the loading, or is it just stuck at white? Because it might be, there could be a number of things that are happening, but either way, it looks like it's just loading continuously. That could be a potential bug that needs to be reported. Please reach out to support and get that reported, maybe with some screenshots, and we'll see what we can do.
Thanks for that context, Jeremy. It looks like Valerie intends to follow up with our support team related to that. I have a question, since there's no others in the chat. In Aware Classic, I'm able to open a data view and drill in and double click on a student to get to that student profiles. Is something like that still going to function within Aware Beta?
Yes, that will still function that way. It's the biggest difference is using the new data tables to access the view. But once you're in the view, all behavior should continue to function as it has.
Awesome. Thanks for that clarification. Okay, we've got another Q&A in. Are we able to combine or summarize all the tests like we can in Classic when we triple click on the year?
Yes, similarly, once you've actually accessed a data view for an assessment, you can use the edit button to aggregate and combine assessments. That will still function. And anything like the triple clicking you're talking about should continue to work as well.
Thank you. Pause for any other questions. Can you review the timeline again as to when we will see Aware Beta in that transition?
We'll edit this out of the recording.
Yes.
Here we go. So here's the approximate timeline that you just asked about. So this is showing the spring semester of 23. We're going to continue development until right around spring break. And development will probably continue into June as well. But right around spring break, we're going to switch Classic towards beta as the default, so that when you log in, beta is what you see immediately rather than Classic. Classic will still be accessible just in case you can't figure out how to do what it is you're needing to do, or if there's something not connected, you can let us know and we'll try to get that continued to be connected. But then the official flip where Aware Classic becomes beta and it's just Aware at that point will be about halfway through the summer of 23.
Okay, I also dropped in the chat for those interested, a section of our online help related to Aware navigation updates. So here we have a small table in one of those articles that does communicate these timelines as well. So Jeremy, a couple more questions for you. Will anything change about teams and how teachers create or add people to their teams, or how they share assessments with a team?
The functionality there will not change in the immediate future. It will be different in the sense that we may have a different way to look at which teams you're a part of in a similar data table like you saw. But actually getting into and managing the team will behave extremely similar, sharing assessments, et cetera. We do have something slated to potentially look at that with feature requests to enhance how teams behave and how you interact with those. But that will not be part of the beta transition. Most of what we're doing for now is going to basically be, let's get everything from Classic over into beta, and wherever we can streamline some processes, that's where we're going to try to make some changes. It's just in the streamlining rather than full actual functionality.
And I would like to add on to that, we are always taking feature requests and interested in hearing your feedback. So if you have recommendations for us on what would make something like Team Test more navigatable for you, always you can reach out to support@eduphoria.net and share those insights. Our product team reviews those at depth as they are doing their research and development plans. We have another question that might require some follow up as far as clarifying. When authoring tests, will we be able to upload tests as a file?
So when, and just like you mentioned, yeah, some clarification may be necessary, Daryl. When you say authoring a test, are you saying upload like a completed test with questions and everything? Or are you saying upload like a test key or uploading data? The way it currently functions now will continue to be brought over where that setting to upload like test data is housed. That will be revealed as we make those connections. So that behavior will work the same. It'll just be accessed in a different spot. As far as uploading tests, current functionality and how that works now will continue to work as it does. Yeah, so uploading a completed test with questions and answer choices. Unless I'm far off the mark, I don't know that we can upload completed tests outside of like a item bank or something to that effect, at least currently. So that would be a future thing we would want to build.
Yes, there is one option that works with exam view and does require some degree of manual review to make sure to add your standards to the assessments. And that is in a, I believe, CSV form. So at present, that is the only type of assessment that you could import into the system. We tried to be really thorough in reviewing what you all have access to that could be used en masse. So that's where we arrived at exam view. So if you have other resources that you're using or maybe other file formats, please let us know so we can consider that for the future. We have a question related to information we can see in the student profile. Are there any thoughts around filtering of journal entries?
For the process of getting beta up and running, nothing will change as far as how that behavior currently works. We have had some feature requests to enhance how journal entries are accessed and filtered, et cetera. But for now, journal entries will still be accessed through the student profiles just the way they are right now.
Thank you for that. Question related to student supports, any changes to accessibility tools and or how teachers can turn them on for students within a test?
And that will still function exactly the way that it does now. And just similar to some of the other things, there are a number of feature requests to maybe enhance some of the way those things are changed in access, particularly for administrators, but that will not be a part of this particular project to make any changes in how that behaves now.
Okay, then we have a clarification question around Proctor. Is this currently available in beta or is this coming soon? And can you kind of distinguish, you were looking at an admin view before, can you distinguish that between what the teacher sees as well?
Yes, so a teacher, I'm logged in. Oh, this is an admin. The
And
teacher
you're in
will
the
likely see
Deb site
administer.
there too.
Say that what again? I'm sorry.
You're in the Deb site there too. I don't know if that's your best space. Or the
Well,
other
and
tab.
yeah, hold on. Let me pull up a. Well, actually, I think this will work.
Okay.
For the most part, the proctoring may look a little more like administer, and you'll see an administer button rather than a proctor. And the button may be contingent on as to whether or not a test is actually within a window to administer. And so as long as a window is open for a test, that teacher should be able to access this and still go there. An administrator will see proctor, and then within proctor, they'll be able to access campuses and particular users, and then proctor as if they were the teacher, just like it does now. Does that answer the question?
I believe so. And for further clarification, Proctor is only available if a right has been selected for an administrator. So you may or may not see this depending on the setup at your district.
Yes, excellent, excellent addition to that point.
Okay, we'll go ahead and pause for any additional questions to come through. These have all been great, giving us some insights into how you're currently using the tool. We hope if you had not been in aware beta yet, this was an encouraging demonstration to prompt you to do so and start exploring those actions in there. Go ahead, Jeremy.
All right, so just to highlight some of the future dates for our upcoming webinars in this mini series, we'll have part 2 coming up on December 13th, so just before the Christmas holiday there, and where we're going to basically focus on staying up to date and just remaining informed on the latest additions and connections that we've made. After that, we'll get well into the spring semester, and February 21st, we'll have part 3, where we'll switch it up a little and we'll actually show you what new connections have been made to that point, but we'll also start to highlight maybe some tips and tricks on how to prepare for the transition to beta district-wide. And then our final webinar in the series will be part 4, which will be March 7th, which will be really close to the window of opportunity where we will actually make the transition to beta being the official aware, the default aware rather.
Okay, we did have another question come in while you were presenting that. Will teachers still have access to share classes through Monitor List?
Yes, Monitor List functionality will still behave the same. It's not one of the things that we have hooked up in beta as of yet, where you actually create and manage the Monitor List. The student profile that I previewed, and again, not hooked up yet, but will be hooked up soon. The student profiles where you can actually filter and sort by Monitor List will help you identify kids in a Monitor List, but managing the Monitor List will be a setting that we have hooked up, and then all functionality there will continue to behave the same.
Okay, I'm going to drop one final thing into our chat before we close, and this is the getting started area in Aware. Our technical writing teams have been keeping this up to date as new things are released. So if you go to this link, you'll notice that to the top right corner, there is a button that says follow. If you follow this, you will get an email update anytime a new article is added. So for example, when student profiles releases, we get that navigating to student profiles article published, you'll be notified that that is there. So you'll be one of the first to be able to go and engage in that experience in Aware Beta if you follow this and become knowledgeable of those updates. So just kind of a nice quick tip to stay in the know. And our newsletters are also giving you kind of a little bit of runway of what to expect next in Aware Beta with our timeline and the features that are being released.
Cool beans. All right. We really appreciate you guys coming. We are officially at our 12:30 time. And so stay tuned as future webinars are released and take a risk. Go hop into beta, play around a little bit. And like Tara mentioned, we're always open to suggestions. And so feel free to drop those in as feature requests. And we look forward to seeing you next time.